Welcome into What of One Sports. Today we're going to do kind of a transfer portal video. I know it's been open for a couple weeks, but for some reason, the NCAA has chosen to put the transfer portal right at the start of Selection Sunday, so that goes on in the midst of the March Madness tournament. Obviously, a terrible decision. We see guys like Scottie Pippen Jr.'s son transferring out of Michigan during the tournament. We see coaches having to juggle trying to land transfers or, but they're still focused if they're still in the tournament. That causes problems, and it's just terrible overall. So I've been more focused on the tournament, obviously, and the games on the court. But now we only have the Final Four left. And that's not for a week. So I'm finally doing a transfer portal video, and we're just going to go through what's the latest transfer portal news we've seen, who are the top guys, who's committed, who's not committed, what are we still looking for. So we got the transfer portal pulled up. We've got Sports Reference if there's any players we need to look up, not familiar with, and try to ignore these ads over here. So just starting off with the latest today, like Miles Colvin, like that's a guy, if we pull him up on Sports Reference, right? Miles Colvin from Purdue. Like, what did he do this year? Because obviously the big three. So you can see this year he's a 5.4 points per game guy, and he's fairly young, I believe. But yeah, so like not the biggest name entering the portal. But then like next we have three heavy hitters here, like Jacoby Gillespie and Rodney Rice. I'll talk about for a second because this one you could kind of see coming from Maryland with their coach leaving to Villanova. We knew Derek Queen was gone. We knew Julian Reese graduated. And we knew Miguel graduated. But Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice still had eligibility. Part of that, elite starting five that I think led the country in scoring this year, points per game from your starting five unit. And your coach leaves, so you do expect them to hit the portal. And these are two really good players. Rodney Rice, a great shooter. Jacoby Gillespie also has really good range. And we'll pull up the stats just see what they averaged. So Jacoby Gillespie this year was 14.7, basically 5 assists on 45, over 40% from three, 86% from free throw line. Like somebody's going to get a really good point guard, a really experienced point guard as well. And then Rodney Rice, a bit younger, but he's almost a 14 point per game guy. Only 37% from three, but I think you have to factor in the difficulty of his threes. He is a really good shooter. So somebody, and if you can land both, like you're getting 2/5 of what was arguably the best starting five of the country. That's huge. Obviously, this is very recent news, so I don't know what they would be looking at. Potentially, first thing that comes to mind, does Villanova land these two guys? Do they follow their coach? If so, that's a major boost for them. That's the first thing you think of. And then Nigel Pack, he had a down year this year at Miami. He dealt with injuries. But if we look back on what he was at Kansas State, and even at times in what he was at Miami, I think he was on that team that went to the Final Four. If we pull it up, so like over the years, so many ads. So many ads. So he was basically 13 as a freshman, and then he was 17 as a sophomore on a really good Kansas State team in 2021. Actually, I'm not sure how good this Kansas State team was. I think this might be confusing with the Marquise Noel team. But then for Miami, he's basically been 13 point per game scorer every year. And this year he only played 9 games because of injuries. So he's getting an extra year, I guess. That's a little bit confusing. I guess the COVID year doesn't count this year. He gets a medical red shirt, I'm assuming. So he gets an extra year. You're getting probably a 13 to 14 point per game scorer who can distribute, who can hit the three ball. Questionable shot selections at times, but a very good point guard. And there's going to be a lot of teams who look to acquire this guy's services. And if there's any way you can get back to the form he was in at Kansas State, I mean, that's a top player. We have another Maryland guy. He didn't play much for them this year, but he's talented when young. Emmanuel Steffen, I believe a true freshman this year at Arizona. Too many bigs ahead of him. You're looking at guys like Vesar, Awaka probably coming back, Krivas coming back from injury. It's just hard for him to get on the floor, so he's probably going to look to find, playing time elsewhere. Same thing with a guy like Michael. I'm not sure how to say his first name, but he was not a huge contributor this year. Nas Cunningham. Wait, did I miss anyone? Okay, so yeah, Nas Cunningham, I believe true freshman. I imagine Alabama would have liked to have kept him. He wasn't he wasn't really playing this year, but he was a talented guy. I think a top 50 recruit. So that's something to keep an eye on. The guy here, Yaxel Lendenberg. I think he may have won. Let's look. I'm not sure if he won the American Player of the Year, but he was really good, and he's really good defensively. Um, so 2 time. Okay, he won Defensive Player of the Year. He didn't win Player of the Year in the American, but you can see he's a 17.7 points per game scorer, double average a double double. He can distribute as well. He can shoot it, and he listed at 6'9". He probably play some small ball five or power forward for you. Somebody at the power five level, I imagine, is going to get a really great player here. Norden K pitch. Norden K pitch. I didn't watch. I watched small amounts of UCSD, so I don't have. All right, so had to look up Norden Kapich, wasn't on Sports Reference, but he's about a 10, 11 point per game scorer coming from UCSD. He's interesting. RJ Godfrey, Michael Rataj, this is a really big pickup for Baylor here. And we're going to go through commitments in a second, but he's your class, like he's a foreign guy, I think German, stretch four, first team All Mountain West. I guess he didn't take a ton of threes, but he can space the floor. I think he's like a 36% shooter, 17 points a game for Oregon State on a team that was pretty good. I think they won 20 games. 6'7" listed here. I think he might actually be a little taller. This is a good start for Baylor because you're going to lose. VJ Edgham's gone to the draft. Langston Love entered the portal. We may see him soon. Norshad O'Meara is graduating. Jeremy Roach graduating. Jaden Nunn graduating. You may have Rob Wright back. There's another player you're definitely in it for from the portal. You've got him. You're bringing in a 5-star, and it's Yesufu, I think it's small forward. So if you can get another big, because this year, I mean, your biggest problem was you just didn't have size. That's a really good starting five. Continuing though, Jace Howard leaving Michigan. Rylan Griffin had a really disappointing year at Kansas, but if we look at what he did at Alabama, Riley, he's a great shooter. And this year, yeah, so he was only 6 points this year. I think it was a little higher at Bama. Yeah, so last year at Bama, he averaged 11.2 points per game and shot almost 40% from three. It was down across the board, but you can get a really good floor spacer, and a lot of teams are going to value that. Kirk Risa, he's interesting. I think he may go pro. Keep going down. Who else jumps up? Oh yeah, these hurt. Styles Phipps and where is he? Sammy Yane. These hurt me. I'm GCU fan, and this guy, highest rated recruit in our program history. This guy was up there as well. He was actually Sammy Yane, top 100 recruit, and he was barely able to get on the floor this year. Phipps played more, but still didn't play a ton. But we're losing out of our starting five. I mean, this guy tangent. I don't know if people care about this, but we're losing Tyron Grant Foster, Ray Harrison, Colin Moore, Jacoby Coles, Luke War. That's 5 guys out of what was really a 7-man rotation with Duke Brennan and Micaiah Williams being the other guys. So we needed these guys to step up in their sophomore seasons, and now maybe they come back, but it's looking like, they're probably gone entering the portal. It hurts because when we signed them last year, had such high hopes. Caden Catchings, really interesting player. He had some really good games for BYU early in the season, but was slowly phased out of the rotation. He's an interesting 3-and-D guy. Like you see, he's great length. At time, he shows the upside of being a floor spacer. He's had some bad games, some good games, but that's what you expect out of a freshman. I know coming out of high school, Purdue was something he had big interest in, and I think he would fit really well alongside Purdue, especially if they're bringing back Smith, Lawyer, and Kaufman Wren as the big three. You need some wings. He could be that, so that would be interesting. Jocelyn Bodo at High Point, just he's going to rebound. He's going to give you size, something like I was just talking about that a team like Baylor could use. And then we talked about Sammy. Will Berg, so Purdue loses the 7'2" center. I'm sure teams will be interested in him just because of the size. Here, Blake Buchanan didn't produce a whole lot at Virginia, but Iowa State, you lose a lot of your best players this year. Your starting center entered the portal, so you needed this. Eagle staff to South Carolina, Sebastian Mack in the portal. Flory Badunga, that's another one that hurts Kansas because you were hoping he would step up and replace Dickinson at the center position, and he may be gone. Maybe he comes back. I know he's leaving the door open for that, but we'll see. Kean Evans, I think that's the guy. That's the guy who hit the shot against Maryland, where it looked like they were going to advance to the Sweet 16. Let's see what he actually averaged, though. Okay, so he was 10 points a game, and he's a really good shooter. Okay, so yeah, that's going to be valuable. And then RJ Lewis obviously will be the best player in the portal if he actually if he actually transfers and doesn't choose to go pro. but I think he might. Okay, so that's the latest portal news from the past few days. So now let's go to the top guys, and we'll filter it. First, we'll go by the committed guys and talk about them. So, who are the top committed guys in the portal? Right now, it's going to give us 21 guys. All right, we'll go through it quickly. Can I get less ads? All right, starting off, Iowa getting Bennett Sturts. This is what you expected. They took the Drake coach. He's a really good point guard. He balled out in the tournament. I expect him to be really good, even moving over to the Big Ten. He's a great player. The most important commitment so far, I would say, is this man, Donovan Dent. You look at UCLA, they're losing Dylan Andrews and Sebastian Mack so far. But I think Perry's returning. Eric Bailey's probably returning. I'm forgetting their power forward's name, but he like plays power forward center. He's back, most likely. Adai Mara probably back. And this was already a really good defensive team, but at times just needed more scoring. Oh, Sky Clark, I think, is back as well. Donovan Dent's going to give you that Mountain West Player of the Year. I think almost 20 points a game. Exactly the kind of scoring punch they need. Right now, I think on paper they look like maybe the best team in the Big Ten headed into next year so far. Owen Freeman, Creighton, you needed this. He's a really good player, but you're losing Kalkbrenner, who's one of the best players in Creighton history. You need to get a center. He's not going to be Ryan Kalkbrenner, I don't expect, but a good pickup. Josen Sannon, this hurts ASU. He's a really good shooter. He was a freshman, double-digit points per game guy. I think he's got a lot of potential still, and with a St. John's team losing guys like Scott, Lewis, Richmond, probably some more I'm forgetting, you needed guys like this. We talked about Michael Rataj. Cam Williams fits Mark Pope's system so well because he's just a wing who's a good shooter, can play some defense. That's a really good pickup for Kentucky. Talked about this. SMU gets a forward from Brown. Anything else? Michael Porter's brother goes to Missouri, which I think could help them. I think they could use some more size. ASU picking up Maurice Odom. This was a guy for Pepperdine who played great in the what do you call it? The West Coast Conference tournament. He's a really good passer. I think he was almost like 8 assists a game, maybe almost. I think somewhere like that. Really good player, and I think they need that. And then Jalen Worley. I don't know what he averaged this year actually, because he was at Florida State before Virginia, and I don't really know what he did at Virginia this year. So only 6 points a game. That didn't really improve his jump shot because I remember he couldn't shoot. So I don't know how much he's going to do, but this is a Gonzaga team that's going to lose like Battle and Hickman and Nemhard and Ek and they're losing a lot. So they need to pick up some more transfers. Mason Miller, man, I thought he was going to do a lot more at Creighton, and he ended up not doing much. So those are the top committed guys. Now if we go top uncommitted, so let's see, available. So Adrian Woolley from Kennesaw State, probably not a lot of people have watched him play, and I have not watched much of him. But let's see, about 19 points per game. You expect that to drop if he goes up to a higher conference. But if we're looking like this is just his freshman year, so what you would expect to drop off from maybe harder competition, but you also expect him to get better from freshman to sophomore year. This is a guy just under scouted, and I don't know, like he's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You would expect Auburn, Alabama to try to get in on that, especially what they're losing. Losing a guy like Mark Sears, losing guys like Baker Mazara, Denver Jones, guys like that. So I expect the Alabama schools to look out for. Next up, Deaton Thomas, another really good player from UNLV. I didn't watch much of him this year and only saw a couple games, but he's very highly sought after. Bryce Hopkins would be a really good pickup for St. John's. They're projected to land him. He was injured this year, but if we go back 2 years to what he did at Providence, because he transferred in from Kentucky, because you can see, yeah, he averaged 17 this year, but it was only in 3 games. And then last year, he only played 14 games, averaged 15 and a half. And then as a sophomore, when he was about 16 points per game, and you can see he's a pretty good rebounder, up about 8 a game. So if he's able to stay healthy, clearly some injury concerns, that's a really big pickup for St. John's. And then you have a good foundation with Hopkins and Sannon. DeVries, I'm a little bit confused to why he hasn't already gone to Indiana, but I fully expect that to happen. Very good player at West Virginia. Isaac McNeely, rumor is it's coming down to between Tennessee and Louisville. I believe. Like Tennessee needs him more because they're going to lose, Lanier and Ziegler and Meshack and all Gainey. Whereas Louisville, yes, you're losing Hepburn and Terrence Edwards, but you're also bringing in like the number one point guard in the class, pretty much in Darius Acuff. So they Louisville's got something coming in, whereas Tennessee did not have a great recruiting class, so they kind of need a little more. Ryan Conwell, I think he's about 15, 16 points a game coming from Xavier, and I'll group him in with Dalen Swain. There was a little bit NBA buzz around Dalen Swain, but if he probably needs to work on the jump shot. If he can, though, these two Xavier guys are really good players, and you would think, or at least I'm thinking, that you would lean towards where Texas, where Sean Miller, their previous coach, is now at. So yeah, I would think that Texas is probably the leader for them. Especially Texas is going to need to add some players. Trey Johnson will be gone, and you expect some other players to transfer with the coach leaving. So there's that. Silas Demery, see what he averaged. I know he's visiting St. John's actually today, so they need more guard play. So that would be huge for them. He's obviously coming from Georgia, and this year he averaged, if it'll pull it up, my computer being slow, probably going to cut this. And all right, he averaged this year 13 and a half points per game, 3 assists, decent shooter. So he's a fine player. But yeah, it'll be definitely good for St. John's. But Dunga, we talked about. Obi Ogbin, this is who I was talking about for Baylor, would be a really big pickup just because you are losing so much in the guard play. And he was at Wyoming. I have not watched him play. So I'm interested to see his statistical profile. All right, so Obi Ogbin averaged upwards of 17 and a half points per game, really efficient as well from three, decent from the field. Yeah, so that'd be a really good pickup for Baylor. Nick Davidson, this is a guy Texas is in on. Malik Renault, and where's the other one? Maybe okay, I guess here he is. Mackenzie Mbakbo, probably butchered that, and Malik Renault, two really highly recruited guys coming out of Indiana. Coach is now gone. Interested to see what they can do. They can have a really big impact. This is San Diego State Magoon Guath. Another size is going to be really valuable. Jaleel Bethia, super highly recruited last year, true freshman, didn't have the season he was looking for at Miami. Maybe he comes back to Miami. There's a few other teams in on it, but he still has so much potential. And then a lot of guys like Elliot Cadeau, one of the bigger names in the portal coming from North Carolina. He's improved as a jump shooter, but still he's not a scorer. He's more of just a guy who can lead your offense, undersized, but will be valued as an experienced point guard. Pop Isaacs, if Ole Miss can get him, he's a great replacement for Sean Padula. He can shoot a three, he can score really well. And if he had been healthy for Creighton, they would have been an even better team this year and would have been a real threat during March. But unfortunately, he was injured most of the year. And now, is there anyone else? We talked about. So that's most of the guys. Oh, Victorious Miller coming from LSU. This is another guy, had a freshman season, showed a bunch of flashes, has a really high ceiling, can be really good. I think Oregon was someone he was originally committed to coming out of high school. I would expect them to get in on it. And I would check the latest one more time just to see if anything. Okay, so yeah, see, something already happened during this video. And Zonomir Ivisic, or Big Z from Arkansas, 7'2" center, floor spacing center, can stretch the floor really well, transfers. Obviously, it's new to me live reacting. So, I know he'll be valued. He would consider Illinois teaming up with his brother. I don't know if you'd want both of them on the same team, but it's something to think about, is that has a connection. He was at Kentucky previously. And he's been with Calipari basically his whole time. So I don't know where he would be looking at. And then we'll just scroll through. Is there anyone I wanted to talk about? I think I'm good. So yeah, that's my transfer portal kind of just talking video. Let me know who your guys' top guys are in the portal, and who do you want your favorite team to go after. Leave it in the comment section down below. I thank you guys all for watching. My Final Four preview and prediction video will be out tomorrow, so if you're interested, make sure to check that out. Until next time.